Welcome to Table Talk, the show about beer, board games, and everything else. I'm Rich.
And I'm Alex, and this month we've been talking about maps. So my question is that, you know, if compasses tell you where to go, who tells the compass where to go? I actually know that. Apparently, it's a magnetic
thought
field.
About it. Yeah, I was gonna say the Earth.
Yeah, the Earth tells you where to go.
The all-knowing Earth tells the compass where to go.
Where to go? Yes. Is north true north?
Yeah, what is true north? That's such a pompous phrase. True north.
What is it? False east?
Yeah, right. Like what? like here's north over here saying I'm north, and then you get like this other thing, this other line that's just like a little this way saying no, I'm true north.
I'm true north, man. I'm true north.
But north isn't wrong. But true north is not necessarily wrong either. So
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Table Talk.
Welcome to Table Talk.
We're shooting a show. Sorry. Yes, we're talking about maps this month. And if you didn't catch last week's episode, we talked about we paired our beer with a cool little board game called Risk. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's only been around for about 50 years. So Risk was the game, and it's a very map-based game. If you can't tell, we got the maps hanging behind us. I said it on the last episode. Yeah, thank you, Vanna. We said it on the last episode, but if you're listening to the podcast, we do want to give you a fair warning for this month for these episodes. They're going to be very visual-based.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having trouble tagging along with us, because we're talking about visual maps that are in front of us or that we're looking at or that we're referencing. We'll probably have some photos. So go to the YouTube channel, Table Talk with Rich and Alex, to check out the video version of that episode. And that's probably going to make a little bit more sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're stuck with the audio version, we're going to do our best to try and narrate what's going on in front of us to the best of our abilities.
Rick looks down at his notes. He looks over. He blinks. He smiles. He leans back in his chair. He's now looking to his right. And now he's smiling and chuckling. And his shoulders are gasping for breath. And he now looks like a bird choking for air. Ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly how the rest of this episode is going to go.
Oddly enough, you're not the first person that's described my laughing that way.
As a bird choking for air?
Interesting. Choking for air.
If it's that verbatim of a description, you might need to see a doctor.
Yeah, I need to reevaluate the way I laugh, I guess. But last episode was all about the game of Risk. I was pairing the game with our beers. I will share, my beer is Gang. It's called the Hennepin, which is named after a French / Belgium explorer. It's a farmhouse saison ale with spices. And again, that's from Gang Brewing in Cooperstown, New York. So
nice.
What were you drinking again, Alex?
I'm drinking the Boone, North Carolina based Appalachian Mountain Brewery Boone Creek Blonde Ale. And this in particular I chose because it looks like a cool exploration scene.
Home of the Appalachian Trail as well, which I have actually hiked. I should just leave it there. Just say I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. No,
okay. Right.
I have done parts of the Appalachian Trail.
Okay,
I have not done the whole Appalachian Trail. So,
ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Season 3 of Brewing Boards is going to be entirely on foot on the Appalachian Trail.
It's just us trying to do this show, hiking through the Appalachian Mountains.
All you hear is breathing.
Yeah, it's like, why is we have nothing to live off of because our backpacks are full of beer and board games. Oh,
we,
we'll live
we
off the land.
Dude, we wouldn't make it past Georgia. Just saying, we'd keel over.
Yeah.
Board
Yeah.
games strewn all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bad.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This week, guys, we're talking about different types of maps. We're going to talk about some old maps. We're going to talk about different map types and genres of map. We're going to kind of cover the gambit of what maps are.
I'm curious. Do you have teed up like an original map, like the old school map? Because I have one, but it is not old in terms of world history. It is old in terms of the United States.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I went a little older than that.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of like ancient Roman civilization. My wife and I went to Rome last year, not last year, 2 years ago, back in 2019, September 2019. We went to Rome. Just something about that city that just really kind of just piques my interest. So I pulled up what I believe is pronounced the Putinger map, which is basically a road map for basically the Roman Empire. This is like during the days when all roads led to Rome, right? It would have served as a handy guide to the empire's transportation network. It's oddly shaped. It's like a scroll, basically. So erase what you think of as a map. Yeah, we're talking about a scroll that is 22 feet long and just 1 foot wide. It depicts the course of 60,000 miles of Roman roads stretching from Western Europe to the Middle East. An additional section also shows India, Sri Lanka, and other parts of Asia. Much like the modern travel guide, the map includes the locations of more than 500 cities, along with some 3,500 other points of interest, such as way stations, temples, forests, rivers, and even spas. The original Putinger map was probably completed sometime around the 4th century AD. It's named for the German scholar Konrad Putinger, who took ownership of it in the early 1500s.
Oh my gosh! Holy cow!
Yeah, so this is the map in its entirety. Okay, and this took me a long time to kind of study and figure out what exactly is going on.
Yeah, what am I looking at, man?
Yeah, if you zoom way out, like we are, and I'll zoom in to kind of show you what it looks like. But and if you're listening, again, I apologize. What we're looking at is a very long map.
It looks like a map that got rolled over by one of those not kingpins. What are they called?
Oh yeah, the rolling pin.
Rolling pin.
Yeah.
Kingpin.
Kingpin.
No, this is interesting.
Yeah, so it's basically a really stretched out. So imagine taking any map in front, like if you can just imagine a standard map in front of you, and imagine that your arms are 11 feet long. And then you just take that map and you stretch it as far as your arms can reach, and that map basically becomes a super long stretch of cloth, almost like kind of like a rubber band almost. That's pretty much what we're looking at for like a European type of map. And now that we're zoomed out, for those of you who are watching, the area that I'm circling right now, that is the key indicator to me. That's Italy. That's the boot right there. Do you see it?
Huh? Yeah.
Because you can kind of see the boot at the end, the heel and the shoe, and then you have what is it, Sicily, right here.
Mm-hmm.
So once you can kind of that's really what helped me with this map, is just knowing that that's Italy, and it's just kind of like tilted like on its side. And then over here, the part where I'm going to be zooming into,
holy cow.
If you picture this as the Strait of Gibraltar, right? And all of this water in between is the Mediterranean Sea, and then these areas down here as the African colonies, basically. And then this little island up here is what I believe is the London and the UK.
Wow.
So that's if that helps at all. I don't honestly know how accurate that is, so I apologize. I can't read Italian or whatever this is.
This
so
map
I can't
is
really
not
make
to
that
scale.
Yeah, I can't. It's definitely not to scale. It's a Roman, but it's showing all the Roman roads and all the cities. And I believe as we scroll across, I can kind of name some things. Again, I'm not a scholar. But this is the Mediterranean Sea that we're looking at in the middle here. and then as we go across, we get into this would be where the Alps are, the mountains north of Italy, and then we get into Italy here with the boot, and then obviously we see Rome right there. All right, and then the next thing that stands out to me is all these rivers over here, if I can find them. Oh goodness, all these rivers over here.
You got to
So
scroll
this is
3 years. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, right. So all these rivers here. This should, to me it looks like Egypt.
Oh yeah, that's the delta.
Yeah, yeah. So that means all of this is Africa, and this is like what we would call probably northeastern Africa, going into the Middle East, basically over here. But yeah, anyway, it's showing all the different trade routes and different roads. This is a representation, like I said, of what probably most travelers back in the day had to help them navigate the roads in the Roman Empire. So
I'd hate to be the map guy to print the second edition of that thing. That must have taken forever to draw on.
It's pretty amazing. It honestly is. It's just it is weird that it. I mean, if you're just following roads, it makes sense. But we're so as a culture today, maps are just like we just have access to them. Like we don't even think about it.
Yeah,
Like,
they just are.
Yeah, like oh man, I was having this conversation with Andy the other day. When I first moved to New York, I was part of a National Guard unit that operated out of Binghamton. That's where our armory was. I've never been to New York before. Definitely never been to upstate New York, but I have to get to this armory. So I just plug it into my GPS, start driving, and follow, just go where I'm told to go. And then I finally get there, and I have a meeting with the the battalion commander, and he sits me down. He's like, "Oh, so did you take such and such highway to get to such and such, and then go up there?" And I was like, "Sir, I have no idea. I just followed the blue line." And I think that's just amazing. This is like that's pretty much all we do is we just follow the blue line wherever we want to go.
Follow it. Just follow.
And but yeah, imagine having to pull out a scroll and just like where am I? Where am I again? Like this red line? No, we're that red line. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the ancient map that I pulled up that I had seen before, just doing my own research for my own little projects, and I was fascinated by it. And it's very, very intimidating. It makes me very happy that I live in a follow the blue line type of generation. So, what was yours?
So mine was fun. I found this in one of the peninsulas of Virginia that faces the bay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, if you can see this, this is the rendition of Captain John Smith's Map of Virginia, First Parliament at Oxford, England, 1612.
This is the John Smith.
And it even has like the cool, this is a replica, but it's got the cool, crinkly, old school paper and everything. All right, so what's interesting about this with Virginia, what's interesting is that usually when you see a map of Virginia, it's vertically based, right? Like there's Northern Virginia, there's Maryland, there's the Bay.
Yeah.
In this case, it's as if you're approaching it from the Atlantic Ocean. So you're only seeing it like this is Eastern Shore. Yeah. This is the Bay, and you're looking like this way. It's as if you're a ship about to hit the beach.
You're looking west.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very different way. But again, one of my favorite things about these old maps is that, it's highly inaccurate. However, they do have some accuracies in this where you can tell that they knew that there was a landmass here, and yet that their Chesapeake Bay was here, and then that there were all the rivers. I mean, they had that piece of it. Not necessarily correctly, but they had it down. They had the idea down.
Right.
But it's just also fun to think that one of these days that or there was a time in 1612 in which he actually presented to the to likely the King of England or the Queen of England at the time, what they thought Virginia looked like at the time.
That's cool. That's a cool perspective for a map too.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I agree. And it also identifies many of the names Oh, that's right. It essentially locates on this map the Native American tribes that used to live around that area too. So it's pretty detailed considering
Oh,
the
wow.
situation. Like you have the Powhatan people right there.
Yeah.
Any number of these things. Jamestown is right over here. So it's just interesting to see how people wrote it down.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Both of those maps, just it is interesting. They're just two very different perspectives from what we have come to expect from maps, basic maps, right? Like they're like, yeah, that one. If there was a key on that one or a compass, it would have shown west as up.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
or close to up.
Yeah, they have
Is there?
No, they have a compass, but they don't give a direction.
Yeah, they don't give the direction,
which is
rather
unhelpful. But that's okay.
It's like just check the box. Like we have to put this compass-looking rose thing on there. Like somebody said, like, "Hey, John." Like,
yeah,
it's a great map. It's
Thanks.
great. It honestly is.
Cool.
The only thing it needs is this little rose compass on the bottom.
Really?
Don't even bother putting the NWES.
Oh yeah. There's no problem, William. I run out of ink anyway. Anybody got a quill? Anybody? No. All right. We'll brand it on.
Yeah. Brand it on. And that's why the whole document went up in flame.
Yeah. That's
Great.
why that's why we only have copies.
Oh man.
Oh man.
There is another map I wanted to share with you. It's an old school map. It's called, and again, don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologize. It's a pretty popular map though. It's called the Waldseemüller World Map. It's from 1507. It's basically the map that is considered the map that gave America its name, in honor of the Italian navigator Amerigo Vespucci.
Vespucci, yeah.
Waldseemüller and collaborator Matthias Ringman dubbed these new Western Hemisphere territories America after Amerigo Vespucci. I didn't even know that's how America got its name.
I have a buddy of mine that he and I would chuckle and say, it's a good thing that it's not called North and South Vespucci. It would be a very different type of continent sound. Yeah. Not bad, just different. America works well, I guess. But
I'm proud to be a Vespuccian.
I mean, now that you actually say it that way, that actually would be pretty cool. Maybe we should change it.
It would be, yeah. Let's start the movement. Hashtag Vespuccian. Hashtag proud to be a Vespuccian. So in 2003, the Library of Congress purchased this map for a whopping $10 million.
Ooh, tax dollars at work. Nice.
But yeah, I mean, since it's the first map that really basically calls it America, it's considered America. It's like America's birth certificate.
Cool. Well, I like that.
Pretty much. So those are the old maps. Did you have any other old maps that you were a fan of?
Actually, no. I want to go into fantasy because it also has to do with old maps, and mine kind of ties into both. So I can make that transition if you'd like.
All right. Before we make that transition, I do have a fun fact from our Googler. You ready? It's just in. So the oldest known world map is the Babylonian map known as the Images Mundi. Dating back to 5th century BCE, it was made out of a clay tablet and shows the Babylonian perspective of the earth and heavens with the city of Babylon in the center. Imago means image. Mundi seems to refer to Axis Mundi, which means the connection between earth and the heavens. Not to be confused with General Mundi from Star Wars. He is a Jedi Knight.
Yes.
So, thank you, Googler, for that information. The first map ever created was on a clay tablet.
Oh, man, I do not envy the guy carrying that around.
I know, right?
Heavy,
how does that process
breakable,
work? Like
you trip and then that dog that dog Harry that's crossing the street every day in Babylon just decides to chase off the cat and then runs over you. You're dead and the map is broken. and that's all there is.
How do I get to this island? Ooh, let me show you. So if you just take a left here, you go here.
It's just weird to
Can
think,
you
though.
hold this for me?
I mean, it's weird to think, though, that no one at that time had actually really, like, there wasn't any other option. I mean, no one had the option. It's like now we consider, well, eat a fruit and vegetable diet because we have the access to fruit and vegetables. You know, back in the day, there were some places that
Right.
all they had was potatoes, and you eat
Right.
it and you're thankful.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
man.
Could draw a map on a potato. Ooh, you know what? That was actually probably the first map. Was probably on like a potato.
On a piece of a potato. Well, I did have a principal
sketched
in
it
middle
into
school who was cool enough that would actually carve globes, like world globes, on like an orange. It was pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, who was this? A friend?
This is, no. Principal of the school I used to go to.
The principal?
Yeah, he was a cool guy, and would hang out with kids. He would have lunch with kids. Once a week, and would just kind of sit around, chat, see how they're doing. And, this is middle school time. And while that time to kind of pass the time, he would, carve, whatever. And then he'd give the piece of fruit to the kid. So, some kid got to take the world map home, I guess. It was
he would
cool.
carve a world map.
Well, like a globe, like the small, and it wasn't, again,
Okay.
not to scale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Would do that.
That is pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
that is
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My mind immediately goes to like this intricate, detailed map, like he's like stenciling.
That would require a very big orange.
I was like, man, he must have been like a genius or something.
Yeah. Renaissance man.
Sorry. A few more updates. Our Googler is hard at work. So more fun facts. Native Americans made maps etched in ash or tree bark, so not potatoes, unfortunately. Native Americans made maps etched in ash or tree bark to help the settlers develop their own maps of areas they wanted to occupy. The Cherokee tribe made a map of trade routes on deerskin and gifted it to the Europeans to make their journeys easier. So deerskin was also the product of a map. So deerskin, tree bark, and ash. Oh, etched in ash on tree bark. That makes sense. Okay. I was like, how do you make a map in ash? It's like you just... There goes my map. My map's completely gone now. But you just like dump the ash onto the ground and draw in it. Ooh, that might have been one. Cool. I still think the potato map would have been a great one because then you just turn the potato sideways and just
especially if you're like especially if you're a spy, you literally cook your information after you're done, and
there you go,
and just eat it. Yeah,
yeah. It's a food source and a navigation tool.
Guys, that's where French fries came from. Not really.
Hennepin, the French explorer, actually drew a map to Niagara Falls on a potato, and that's where French fries came from.
And that, my friends, is called not true.
Yeah. That is not correct information. All right, fantasy maps. You said you wanted to get into that. So
I have a copy of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, which is a magnificent story about treasure, adventure, and inevitably a treasure map, which also includes this awesome map. Look at that.
Nice.
That is the island where the treasure is held.
Mm-hmm.
So this is cool. Given by above JF something W Bones, master of ye, I can't read that word, Savannah, this 20 July 1754. So it's written as though it's an actual map by one of the characters, Billy Bones. So
that's my favorite with fantasy maps is the maps are drawn by the actual characters in the book, right?
Yep.
So
I have one more I wish to share.
Okay.
This is from the classic. You may recognize this book.
I don't think I do. Oh,
Dinotopia.
No, I don't know this book.
This is one of the most beautifully illustrated children's books.
Dinotopia?
Yeah, it's basically like a Lost World kind of style. But this is the actual Dinotopia world, which I love that it's a physical map in particular.
Yeah. That looks good.
So
It's a good map.
it tells you kind of the structure and the style and the geography of what you're looking at around here. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, pretty cool. But the illustrations in this book are particularly beautiful. You can see this, but
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're really
yeah,
cool.
that's
But
really good.
I always love the fact that they had a map on here, and you should check it out. This is
What
Dinotopia by James Gurney.
what type of book is it? Is it like a kid's book or
Kind of a kid's book,
yeah?
but like it also has like full on illustrations in between. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I was a dinosaur nerd growing up, and needless to say, the original copy I had way back in the day was exceptionally well worn.
Yeah, fantasy maps are just they're awesome. It's honestly probably part of the biggest. Well, while I'm talking about it, I should probably just say this is probably one of the biggest reason that I'm into maps to begin with is because of this guy, um, little guy named J.R.R. Tolkien,
I've heard of him.
and yeah, so this is what I believe to be his original map.
That's cool.
At least from what I saw online, this looks like it's the original map. The funny part about this, you can't read it in the top left, but there's a note up here that apparently says, "Do not write in the margins." And if you can see this, he didn't follow his own instructions very well because there's a lot of notes in all of the margins, not to mention this blood red ink that's spread across the whole thing.
So
But
cool.
this is apparently the original illustration. I'm also told that there's a burn. It's all pixelated, but apparently there's a burn hole just to the west of the Misty Mountains. Which obviously Tolkien was a pipe smoker, so apparently there's a burn hole over here somewhere. He burned a hole through it originally.
So cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole Lord of the Rings series is partially why I got so into map making and stuff like that. So there's that. Um, I had I also I remember reading a lot when I was a kid about C.S. Lewis and Narnia. There is a story about C.S. Lewis and his brother W.H. Lewis. They created a world called Boxen, which is so C.S. Lewis had a world about like animals. He called it Animal Land. And Warney, who was W.H. Lewis, Warney had stories about India, and apparently they had maps for these worlds and stuff, and the two worlds were separated by a mountain range in the middle. So like we're talking about like 9, 10, 11-year-old kids like just drawing maps just to entertain themselves, creating these different worlds. And so then eventually they ended up publishing some stories about Boxen, which is that fictional world that's you have Animal Land on one side and kind of this fictional India world on the other side. It was during the time of influenza, which was ravaging many families, and the Lewis brothers were forced to stay indoors and entertain themselves by reading. They read whatever books they could find, both those written for children and adults. Influenced by Beatrix Potter's Animals, C.S. Lewis wrote about Animal Land, complete with details about its economics, politics, government, and history, as well as illustrations of buildings and characters. So, if you haven't had a chance to look up Boxen by C.S. Lewis, go ahead and check it out. That's another great example of how maps work. And even Tolkien said he created the maps before he even created any of the story. Like he just mapped it out,
So, guys, if you're looking to create an original idea, create a map first before you even write. That's what I'm hearing anyway from this tale.
Yeah. Which, if you just saw the maps that we showed, it could be a little daunting.
Could be very daunting. Could be very daunting.
Yeah.
I am very curious to you because we obviously did discuss treasure maps.
Right.
Did you ever bury treasure yourself and create a map for it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I remember specifically. So I grew up on a farm in Westfield, a lot of acreage. So we grew up right next to the woods. The woods came up right up next to the house. In the woods there was an old tree stump that had it was old, and the stump itself was really kind of nubbed into the ground, so it was pretty flat. But the tree stump, the top of it had just a natural X in it.
Hmm.
Just kind of the way it was cracked, right? But you could look down and there was an X there.
Hmm.
So I forget who it was. Somebody made a treasure map and had buried. I honestly forget what it was. I have no idea what it was. It was probably just like a little trinket of some sort that they buried next to that tree stump. And
Babe Ruth rookie card.
yeah, yeah, right. Oh man.
Wait a
It was
second.
nothing of value. It was probably like a marble or something. I don't know. But they dug it next to that tree stump, and it was X marks the spot pretty literally, because
Nice.
once you like, it led you straight to that tree stump, and then you looked down and you're like, it's an X. And then like that excitement was like, oh, I found it, like this is it. And then you just kind of had to like dig in the dirt next to it, and you found it. Yeah.
Have
I remember
you
that.
have you dug it up?
I
Since being
mean,
an adult?
obviously, if you can't tell by the way I tell that story, I was very young at that time. I don't really have a lot of memory of who made it and who dug it up. I remember the feeling of just like looking down and being like, "That's it! Like that's what's on the paper! Like that's like we were looking at it, and then we looked down, and that was that." So I don't remember who dug it up. I didn't dig it up. Apparently, I was apparently too overcome with joy to, to actually do any digging myself. So no.
Okay.
What about you? Did you guys have any treasure map experience?
No. I had a friend of
No.
mine and I one time in one summer when we were kids think about mapping the islands that were created from the creek where we grew up. There were a couple of hurricanes that hadn't necessarily, like, Northern Virginia is far enough, so landfall is just you get a lot of rain. But there was one time where Hurricane Isabel, I think, went through the area, and a torrent of water went through the creek, and I think it carved some islands actually in the forest because of that. So the creek would go around these land masses.
Yeah.
So we, for a summer, were toying with the idea of mapping things, but no, none of that.
Man, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity as a kid to just do a lot of mapping and exploring. Like, I don't know.
Maps
Part
are
of me
fun.
wishes I had like the technical know-how as I like that I do now as a child to like when I had the energy and the time to just like walk around and explore things. Like it'd be fun to have like a map of like my home growing up and like the woods behind the house and stuff. And I don't know, but like all of that as a kid just seems so arbitrary. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like you're just out exploring and having fun,
This makes me want to go to our next topic about the different types of maps for different reasons, because I feel like how you see a map can often dictate like your own experience of things.
Yeah, let's dive into the different types of maps that we have that we work with or that we see on a regular basis. Where did you want to start with that, Alex?
So there's a couple different ones that we have. And I had to forgive me if I mispronounce this. Topographical maps, political maps.
Topographical.
Topographical, thank you.
Yeah.
Maps, political maps, physical maps, and street maps. Because often those can serve different functions. And it's very interesting because I feel like when growing up at school, I remember seeing physical maps a lot and political maps. Topographical.
Topographical. So okay, I should explain. The only reason I know how to say that so well is because the military. It's the maps that the military use. So
very good.
I'm
very
probably
good.
most familiar with. Yeah.
Topographical maps is like the like professional map. I mean that is the map that if you want to get into like how tall is this particular spot, boom, got it. Now I know that there's elevation here compared to there. Physical maps can be helpful to some degree, as far as I understand it, because at least then you'll see like the Himalayas are a mountain, like it's a mountain range. It's not just Bhutan or Nepal or China or whatever it is. Whereas political maps, though this one is sort of quasi, this is Randall McNally. map. This is sort of quasi-physical as well as political. You'll see the Rocky Mountains over there. They have the Appalachian Mountains over there, the Sierras, and the river systems, etc. But you'll see some of the elevation changes, especially along the mountain ranges.
Mhm.
Whereas some political maps just don't have that, and all you see are the varying colors that designate
Right.
those.
The political boundaries,
Right.
pretty much.
Do you remember growing up at school with any number of those, like on the giant,
Yeah.
the roll down ones?
Yeah, the roll down specifically, yeah. Political maps I feel like are the go-to map for most classrooms or learning about maps originally. Yeah.
So here's my question: did the maps that you had? Because always felt like, one, I was confused briefly as a child that Hawaii was not in the Gulf of Mexico.
You're right.
Like, there's that realization of, oh, Hawaii's like way out there. It's practically an entire continent of the United States of water before you land in Hawaii.
Right.
But the other thing that always got me was the fact that if you the Northeast was so tiny, like Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, all those were really tiny.
Mhm.
Delaware, is that you usually would have like the names, written out in the Atlantic Ocean as to what the names of the
Right.
states were,
With a little line
right? That
going
like
to it. Yeah.
pointed. Oh, it's over here.
It's somewhere in there.
which is interesting because I would often struggle with this because I used to have this road atlas that would, it was all 50 states. I'll never forget this. My aunt who lives in Duxbury, Massachusetts. She picked me up in Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah, we've been there. To Providence, Rhode Island airport, and picks me up and says, "Okay, I want you to be I want to be my map guy, my guide." And this is before GPS became a thing. So
Mhm.
I have, I think it was Randall McNally, 50 state map, and it's the book style. So I'm flipping through and I'm looking for R, Rhode Island. So I'm like, okay, great. Now, I mean, it might actually be there, but Rhode Island. I believe the one next to Rhode Island is Western Pennsylvania, right? Or whatever. It's like
Hold on,
Pennsylvania.
looking it up.
Yeah. See if they actually still do this.
I have an atlas in front of me, and for those of you who don't understand what an atlas is, it's a book with maps in it.
Yeah, it's basically a book of maps.
You said
Rhode Island, as in R, as in Richard.
Yeah. So Rhode Island. So next to Rhode Island, I have South Carolina.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe in this map, what's to the flip the page back so you see the state before Rhode Island. Is it Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in this particular version that I had, it was West and East Pennsylvania. But I'll this actually is a perfect point to make. Go back to Rhode Island, and then you'll see Rhode Island and South Carolina. All right. So this is for future reference. One side is Rhode Island, right? Yeah.
There's two Pennsylvanias. Pennsylvania's a big state.
It's big. It's real big. All right. So you have so Rhode Island is on one side and South Carolina is on the other. So what's really interesting is that often these maps, these atlases in particular, you struggle with the fact that you have no concept of state size unless there's a legend of like 1 inch equals however many miles. Rhode Island,
they're all the same size. It's one book. They're all the same size.
So flashback to early 2000s. I'm with my aunt and we're driving through Rhode Island. And I have no concept of how big this atlas is. So I'm like, okay, so in a little bit, I think you're going to be taking a ride here on, I don't, James Street or something like that. And all of a sudden, it's like, there goes James Street. Wait, what? I thought that was something like 10 miles. Oh, that's right. Because there's no frame of reference. So it's really interesting.
Right.
Like, I mean, heck, you can even look at the size comparison between South Carolina and Rhode Island is drastically different. Rhode Island is very small. I love Rhode Island. I think Rhode Island is a wonderful state. But to actually put it on atlases without a real designation of size, at first sight, it's a little confusing.
Right. It's really it's funny. Like it's really only this right here. Like it's just this. There's a little yellow outline.
It's
So like you have this whole page designated to Rhode Island, but it doesn't even fit. It doesn't even take up the whole page. It's
very
just this
it is
little area.
It is very small. But Rhode Island is nonetheless a very significant part of the United States, one of the original 13 colonies, and was the first colony founded under the freedom of religion, which is also an interesting little side note.
I have an update from our Googler. It's not necessarily an update more as it is kind of a teaser. Who invented latitude and longitude? Do you know?
Do you know?
Do you?
Guy over there doesn't know
Do
either.
you know?
Do you
He
know?
doesn't know.
That guy doesn't know. I'm not going to even bother
Studio
with answering,
audience.
so,
Does anybody know?
Anybody know? Anybody know in the comments without looking it up on Google?
Pause. Now here's the answer.
Okay.
All right, the answer to who invented latitude and longitude is Claudius.
Do you mind showing me?
I don't know how to
show me the. Show me the.
Pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce.
Hold still. It's Claudius Ptolemy. Or Ptolemy.
You know that?
It might be a silent
Ptolemy.
P. It'd be Ptolemy or Ptolemy.
Claudius Ptolemy, a cartographer who wrote geography in 150 AD, was the first to use the terms latitude and longitude to describe a location.
Well done, Claudius. Well, I will say,
hold on.
The invention of latitude and longitude must have blown people's minds, because what a way to triangulate like where you actually need to be. It's so cool.
Right. Again, something that's like second nature to us, but it just it does. It kind of scares me how smart people are and were. like man, good thing that wasn't up to me, because I wouldn't have figured that out.
Well, and that's the question that I have too, because like, all right, so you got your atlas, right? You have the way to describe where you are on paper, but now we have all these GPS systems, right? That basically, you do this, you walk around, and then something invisible in the sky that you can't see says, "Oh yeah, no problem." Bink, there you are. Exactly. Yeah. This is where you are.
Right. Right.
Do you like that?
I love it. What are you talking about? Yeah, I love it.
Well, but here's the thing: is without it, would you know where to go?
Yes, I would. I know how to read. And had I not joined the military, then no, I probably wouldn't know where to go. Okay. I know how to read a map very well. It's part of the training with military. Any of you out there who have done any basic training understand land navigation is part of the key training, and we do use topographical maps for that, and those are the maps with all the lines on them. I mean, I got plenty of great stories with land navigation that I could share. I'll try and I'll try and narrow it down, but yeah, I mean, the whole point of the training is to practice plotting points. Understanding true north versus every other north, and triangulating positions based off of azimuths and all this kind of stuff. It is fun. It's a lot of fun to do that, and I feel comfortable with it. I've always felt comfortable with it since I've had that training. I'm still very lazy. No, I feel like it's kind of like a guy thing, right? Like what I was saying with like my battalion commander, guys like to know how to get places, right? Like we're getting into the common stereotype of, guys not asking for directions, which I understand. Yeah, it is a generalization, but it is a funny one, at least to me. Like I fall into that perfectly. It's a square. If it's a square hole, I am a square peg, and I fall right into that. I do not ask for directions. I do not. I get angry when anybody wants to stop and ask for directions. I get angry when, not angry, but I get frustrated. Like it's a matter of pride to me. Like I want to know where I'm going, right? Which is funny because basically I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just relying on GPS to tell me where to go. So anyway, all of that to say, I feel like it is a guy. It is a guy thing, especially to like oh take 131 to 76, and then it's like, oh, I don't go that way. I take the back roads, take 22 to 53. Anyway, I don't get into that very much. I like just kind of like plugging it in and then just going, because I got other things going on in my head. My head is constantly thinking of like, ooh, a song, or ooh, this would be a cool story, or ooh, a raccoon. Like, it's just that's what occupies my mind for the most time. I don't have time to pull up a book.
So the idea of having the GPS takes away the burden of kind of directional responsibility that directional interpretation.
Right.
I see. Yeah.
I do feel though there's an aspect of society or culture that is missed with the passenger, so the person sitting in the passenger seat. I do hold strongly that the person in the passenger seat is responsible for navigation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Even with GPS, it's their phone that they should be using. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Interesting.
The only exception is Andy, my wife. I'll handle that. Like it's not necessary. I don't put that all on her. Like when we're going somewhere, like I'll pull up the GPS myself and do all that. If it's like if you and me got into a car and I was driving and you were sitting in the passenger seat silently without telling you, I would be very angry at you if we missed a turn. Because I'd be like, that's your job. Like it's like because that's the rule, right? The person in the passenger seat is the navigation, but you got both hands free. You don't have to pay attention to anything. You're the person that can like pull up your phone or pull up an atlas and figure out where we're going. So like that's I still hold to that to some degree.
Do you think that
we probably shouldn't go on a road trip together?
Hey, at this point, man, I'd love to do a road trip and but hashtag 2020.
I'll sit in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sit in the back. Well, no, I would say like the in those instances, like if you can't feel like you get along in terms of driving, I feel like each person should have their own day. Like, and it'd be like you can't comment or critique each other for that travel for one whole day. Then you switch and you do the same thing. And it's either you get there successfully with a lot less stress, or you end up in Florida when you're supposed to be in Washington State. So who knows what actually happens? But I'm very much a fan of making travel as least I don't know what the word stressful. Yeah, because like traveling is a privilege. A lot of people just didn't travel at all.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's that to be taken into account. But the whole the fact that GPS, you can be like, hey, I want to be able to figure out where I'm going. Okay, great. Hey, I'm about to run out of gas. Oh, let me ask, what's the closest gas? Oh, wait, I don't want to spend more than $1.97 or $2.25 a gallon. Yeah. There has to be a cheaper place to get gas on my way. Oh, I can figure that out too. Oh, I also want to eat dinner. Oh, I can figure that out. Oh, but I want a 4-star dinner at least. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where to go. all from GPS. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
And then we have these guys who we're really talking about what 400 years ago, if that, like, who were just going out for just, hey, this area hasn't been explored yet. Let's just go out into the great big unknown with
it takes
anything that we can strap onto our back and put it in a canoe.
Very distinct personality type. I don't think I would be able to do that myself, but I don't know, because there's really not much. There's not much on this planet that hasn't been explored that doesn't require life and death scenarios. Like ocean floor, I consider that probably as dangerous as going to space.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Not worth mapping it in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, there's certainly, I mean, you know this, there's certainly a lot of things that I haven't discovered on my own. So there's that joy of discovery, but it's not like I am the first person from my entire country to witness this site. Right.
I do have a story about topographical maps though from military training that I want to share. For those of you who don't know, so when you do a land nav course, they teach you the basics, right? They give you points that you have to find, basically the longitude and latitude of where you need to go. You plot those points on a map, and then you have to go out into the middle of nowhere and find them. And they're just little they're little basically flagpoles in the middle of the woods that you basically have to find. You write down the number, or that has like a little punch card in it. But you have to figure out how to get there. You got to count your paces. You got to, figure out like different geographical features that are around you to pinpoint where you're going. You got to, understand how many meters you're going. Anyway, so I've done all of this, right? So the best part about land navigation, number one, is that if you're really good at it, they give you a lot of time to do it. So you can get all your plot points done in about, let's say, about 3 hours. And then you have about 4 hours left to just kind of hang out, eat your MRE, catch up with your buddy, and just be like, hey, basic training, right? This kind of stinks, and then just kind of mosey your way on back. That's assuming, that's if you're confident that you have all the right points. Because if you don't have all the right points, then they send you back out, and you only have like 30 minutes left to find that point. Anyway, so that's some of my favorite memories. Another favorite memory is a drill sergeant that I had in basic training. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. He said, and this is so basic training. I went when I was about 20 years old. The youngest guy there was 17 years old, and there was a lot of what I would have considered kids. Right, they're immature, not very far along in life experience. Not that I was a wise old man by any means, but anyway, the drill sergeant said, so on a topographical map, right, you have obviously everything brown and green is land. Everything blue is water, obviously. Like that shouldn't need to be explained, but it is part of the course, right? If you see something blue, don't go into that. That's unless you have a boat. So he would say, and he said this a couple times, but the first time he said it was the funniest. He said, if you ever get lost, you pull out your map, you unfold it, right? Take your canteen, right? Unscrew the cap, dump it out onto the ground, and then wherever you see a blue dot appear on the map, that's where you are. And the saddest part is people did it. So if you can imagine, Joe Schmo, 17-year-old, poor kid, takes this advice literally, goes out into the middle of the woods, can't figure out where he's at, is completely lost. Me watching from a distance, laughing hysterically and not helping him at all. Takes out his canteen, dumps it into the ground, empties it, which water is important in this type of situation.
Yes.
Empties it onto the ground and stares at his map. And then the look of confusion, and then all of a sudden, but that's not, the look of confusion isn't as good as the look of realization.
That he's been duped.
When he suddenly realizes, oh, that was a joke. But not only that was a joke, I now have no water.
Look of shock and then fear all at once.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the type of stories that come up when I think of topographical maps. I think of funny guys that I went to basic training with. Complete, and they passed. They were fine. They passed. Believe it or not. Those are the people now driving our tanks.
Hey, good learning lesson right from the get-go. I totally forgot about this until now. Speaking of physical maps, ladies and gentlemen, the surface mission map of Mars, of what they think it would have looked like in the days of old if there was in fact water in on the Martian surface. Now, mind you, it's barren rock except for the ice in the poles, but yeah, compliments of course cool. National Geographic, natural for map loving person that I am. So
yeah, if you haven't been keeping up with that, that's pretty cool too, that we actually have we have a device on that another world that's like mapping it out as we speak. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Places that no one has ever seen, and yet they've always been there. Well, not always, but they've been there for however long. And now
Right.
people have a way to not have a Captain John Smith version of Mars. Like, they're not just doing this, guys. Like, they actually have scans and radar and.
But in some way though, it's like the same thing though. Like it's
kind of.
It's like it's just information from the perspective we have at that time. Like we're just mapping out like what we can see. Yeah, right. What we can see from that little robot,
Mm-hmm.
So like those, in a way, it's like the exact same thing. It's just a perspective driven map. Like
it's pretty cool.
Like until we know enough information where we can lay it out the way that we can now, like we can like a state like Virginia, Anyway, that's pretty cool. Physical map, you've said the phrase a few times, but the difference between a political and a physical map is the physical map is basically green, brown, and blue and white, and it's basically laying out the physical features of the land.
Yeah, key point you won't see are the imaginary state lines and or province lines,
right,
and or country borders.
Right. It's an unbiased map.
Usually, yes.
Yeah. I like. I mean, honestly, when we actually talk about different types of maps, there's like, I mean, technically there are thousands, right? Like you can make a map for any reason. Yep. I mean, when it really breaks down, there's only about maybe 5 to 8, maybe 10 different actual types of maps. But like, yeah, like looking behind me, like we have Michigan breweries and wineries map that I can then unfurl and then look up, right? But this is a map specifically designated to breweries and wineries. So like take that and take that concept and then just keep adding like, oh, this is a map of all the spas. What?
This is California state parks, not national parks, state parks.
Oh, state parks. Nice.
Yeah, look at that.
Wait, is that a folding map?
Sort of, yeah.
Do you want to do a map folding contest?
Ready, set, go. Done. Done. I think mine was significantly smaller, but that's okay.
I think I folded it inside out. It's supposed to have like pictures on the front.
Usually.
All right, so you win the map folding contest.
I might have. I still think
I might have. Good for you.
Did I fold it wrong?
Uh-oh, if you folded it wrong, it's not. It's
no,
not
I guess I did.
Valid.
Yeah.
Not valid.
Not valid?
Not valid. There we go. Okay, there we go.
Hey, there we go. Now I know where to go. Thanks to your help.
That's this week's episode, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Thanks for listening in. And for those of you who were listening who had no idea what we were talking about this whole time, go check out the YouTube channel.
Check out the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Next week, we're going to be diving into a little thing called Google Maps. But until then, guys,
be happy,
brew happy,
and game on.
Game on. Cheers. This is another thing about maps. I love the notes, right? So let's go up here. This area, goats abound. Goats abound in this area.
Just a heads up.